Hey guys, we're going to be going to Morturrim for the budget run that I've been promising you guys. This is the team we're going to use. We're using some 7 stars like Jesse, Aiden, and Vossler. We're using some free units like Ling and Elena. And we're going to be using a unit to solo carry the damage. We're going to choose Louise because she's a relatively easy to build unit. You can bring any damage dealer you want, like, Yigni's a great choice, or one of the high-end units like Laura or Sky or something. I figured I'd pick Louise because she's one of the earlier ones. You can even use Elena. It would just be a lot slower. So this is the team we're going to use. We're not using very many STMRs. We're not relying on any big critical limited time stuff. And the team is relatively cheap. The only tricky thing is the evasion. We are using a lot of evasion. No modifiers. Let's get in here and do the clear, and then I will show the gear and all and explain it afterwards. But the big thing here is everyone is evading, which I know is not specifically budget, but it's just something you got to do for this fight. Alright, so we're going to, let's see, refurbished, full breakdown. Oh, nope, I'm doing it wrong. We're going to full breakdown, refurbished, and Midgar. Aiden, most turns, is just going to do, let's see, potent and immunization. Vossler, most turns, will just do Lucent Wall. Ling, most turns, will just Blithe and Purifying Dance. Elena, most turns, is just going to Legendary and Beloved. And Louise, most turns, will just do a bunch of... Whoops. Actually, let's see. We want to do this, that, and that. Okay. Yeah, so for the first, 5 or 6 turns, we're just going to be spending them filling the morale gauge to start getting better damage for Louise later. Alright, so Vossler is our provoker. The whole team is evading, as you can see. Vossler's primary provoke, Jesse is secondary provoke. Alright, he got zombied. Don't really worry about it, we're fine. Sometimes Aiden will counter and deal some damage to your zombie. It shouldn't kill him, doesn't really matter though, even if it does. So we're just going to reload all these guys. And like I mentioned, we're primarily just getting the morale gauge for now. We want to get the morale gauge, if possible, as far to the left and get it into the 150 range. That way Link can start doing her Dance of Ferocity. And that'll make it... the boss pushes the morale gauge so far as well. This is a little tricky. But anyway, we'll get there soon. So much morale. If we had Kresnik, but we're not using Kresnik. No Kresnik clear. Alright, so let's continue pushing the morale as far as we can. Let's see. We'll now just do Legendary and Radiant with Elena. Alright. Yeah, the boss has cycles where he goes, some turns he does lots of morale. Alright, here's the attacks. The reason we picked Vossler is because he has multiple stacks of guts. When he dies, we're going to use triple white on Aiden to revive him, and then we're going to kill our secondary provoker and bring her back. All that with full life, and then repeat everyone else. And there we go. Alright. Oh good, we finally got the morale gauge into the positive. I should have shifted last turn on Ling. Big mistake there. Oh well. Alright, there's some deaths on him. Don't really worry about it. It's fine. Alright, let's shift Ling. So we can start doing double morale fills. Let's see. Let's have Jesse do her thing first. We'll do this. And we're going to have Aiden do the same thing. Kill our secondary provoker, bring her back, and here we go. Okay, so every 5th turn, the boss is going to AoE zombie. So here's the AoE zombie, but we can fix this with the morale skill, Remedial Will, so it's not really a problem. Okay, so we Remedial Will here. Alright, the morale gauge is almost far to the side. Let's see. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Ling is going to shift. And we're going to Blithe and double dance. Trying to fill as much morale as possible. Let's Lucent with you. And Aiden on this turn can do back to his immunity buffs. Okay, so now the morale is finally all the way to the side, so now we're going to start dealing damage next turn. Alright. And the boss's cycle repeats, by the way. Like I said, the boss is on a 5-turn cycle, so every 5th turn, it starts over. So, turn 6 was the same as turn 1. We're not using any LBs or anything like that, which is why it's working out the way it is. Alright. Technically, this would be a good turn to start dealing damage. My field's not up. It doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and start dealing damage while this is a good turn. So, we're going to start dealing damage, like I mentioned. Let's go ahead and shift Ling. Let's Blithe. Let's Amplify and Killer buff. Alright, let's have Jesse. Full breakdown, whoop, I'm so bad. Don't use Limit Burst. So full break, refurbished, and Midgar. Let's see. We can Lucent with you. Let's go ahead and put up Resounding. No one's hurt. So let's do some immunity buffs with Aiden. And Elena's going to support chain with Quad Farega with an Esper and Irene's Ring. And disarming, 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 neutralizing. Okay, so this should deal a ton of damage now that we're at max morale. The boss is broken from, well, a ton of damage being relative. We are doing a budget run. All right, so I think that this is the Dispel turn potentially. We push the threshold. Let's pay attention. What he's doing. Nope, that wasn't a Dispel turn. No dispels, nothing. That was a great turn. Let's go ahead and put up that 400% buff again. Wait for all the auto casting. We can just reload these guys. Ling, let's go ahead and shift. Let's Blithe, Ferocity, and disarming movements. Let's do a bigger break with that. Louise can. I didn't do my field yet. It's fine though. When the boss buffs, we're gonna put up that field while we wait for that buff to wear off. All right. So here's the threshold. All right, threshold doesn't really matter because we're not doing limit burst. We're not doing poison. So thresholds don't really matter to us. He is gonna do a lot of attacks. We've got double provokers. Not a problem. Boom, handled, easy, easy. Yeah, not using limit burst is kind of the key to a budget run here. Anyway, we lost our Vossler, so we're going to revive him. We're going to double revive our Jessie, but before we do that, she is going to break. Whoops. She's going to full breakdown, refurbished, and Midgar special. Let's do this first. All right, let's go ahead and get Aiden to bring these people back. Is the boss buffed? Yeah, the boss is buffed at mitigation, so we're going to spend this turn with Louise. We're going to go to the base form. We're going to field. We're going to get her some buffs up with all this stuff. Ling will, let's see, we will Blithe. Let's Purifying and I guess Ferocity. And Elena can, let's see, Radiant and Legendary. We're mostly just keeping the morale high is all we're really doing here. It's turn 9, so I think this turn we're gonna lose Vossler. He's gonna do a bunch of attacks on Vossler. Not really worried about it. Okay, and then the secondary attacks go to our secondary provoker if she survives. Didn't. Okay, or Vossler didn't die, but Vossler did use up lots of his guts charges. So we're going to go ahead and refresh his guts by doing full life again, and then we can just Curaga to make sure anytime you Curaga, you're not Curaga-ing a zombie. And make sure you don't use Curaga to kill Vossler, because he might have charges of guts left, and he'll guts the Curaga, but he won't guts the full life. Jesse can just reload here. Let's do a Resounding Will. Eileen is going to support Shame. And Louise will shift. 1, 2, 3, cap. Let's go ahead and do some buffs with Ling beforehand. So the morale is fine, so we're going to go ahead and Blaze, Medium, and I want to go ahead and Rally and Dance while I can right here. Okay, so the boss does still have a mitigation buff, so we're going to do less damage. It says mitigates physical damage, but Eileen or Louise is a physical damage type, so it is mitigating part of Louise's damage here. That's why it's so low. It's fine, doesn't really matter. Okay, so the boss is going to do more attacks now that he's lower in health. This is the reason we've got double provokers. Sometimes Vossler and Jesse are both going to die here. There's an AoE Dispel. Kind of sucks. But he shouldn't get through both your provokers in a single turn. So some of these attacks on Vossler are fine. There's an AoE Zombie. Technically, we could use the thing, but I kind of want to kill Vossler this turn because he's not imperiled. Oh, he's not imperiled. Never mind. So, okay, AoE Zombie, cured. Boom, handled, done. Okay, let's buff up. Let's reload this. Let's put Aiden back on immunity buffs. So we got reaped that turn. Vossler can just Lucent Wall, and the reason for Lucent Wall is just to raise morale. That's all. I mean, that's all it is. It's not actually, we're not actually doing it for the buff. Let's see. Ling will Ferocity, Blythe, and Ferocity. Eileen is going to support Chain. Louise will Chain as well. The boss has buffs right now, so, you know, whatever. Yeah, the boss, like I said, is a repeating cycle. So this turn, the boss is going to do the skeletal attacks. Same as turn 1. He's back to his turn 1 of the rotation. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, repeat. Skeletal Storm. Boom. As long as you don't use Limit Burst or poison the boss, that changes his rotation and the fight gets more complicated. Obviously, if you're doing a high score run, you kind of have to, but we're not doing a high score run. All right, so he only got through one of our provokers, not a problem. And at this point, I think we've won. So Jesse is not zombied, so all we need to do is single cast full life. Done. Resounding Will, reload, do this. Ling can shift. Our morale, I think, is good. Yeah, the morale, let's do one Blythe. Let's do a Blythe step. Let's do a Blaze. Let's do a medium. And I think this is the end of Morturrim. Turn 12 with a pretty budget run. All right, I'm going to show you the gear and all and explain in detail what was going on in a moment. Oh, does he have mitigation again? Might have mitigation again. Didn't matter. We won. All right. Excellent. So let me go ahead and show you the team and the gear, and we'll explain how and why this all worked. And there's your score run. Obviously, your score won't be great. Obviously, Louise did all the damage. But you'll get all the completion rewards, and you even get one of these things. And, ooh, nothing good. Okay, so here is the party, and let me explain all the details. Okay, so Vossler is a little bit important. He is because he has multiple stacks of guts, and it's a staggered guts. Most of the time, units with the guts, they have thresholds of 1% health. Vossler is not unique, but he's one of like 3 units in the game that have staggered guts. He will hit point lock just like a trial boss at different thresholds. He'll lock hit points at 10%, he'll lock hit points at 5%, and with an item guts, which we gave him, I'm going to show you in a second, he'll lock hit points at 1%. So he needs 4 attacks to actually kill him each life. And every time he actually survived a turn after using his guts, we used Aiden to full life him because he always gets zombie because he's always the provoker. If he's alive, he's the last one standing. He always eats the single target zombie. So we use Aiden to full life him and bring him back, and that refreshes all 4 stacks of Vossler's guts. On turns where the boss does even more attacks, our secondary provoker is Jesse. Make sure Jesse is further to the right in the party as opposed to Vossler. That way Vossler always has priority on passive provoke. Also, this is extremely important. Do not gear Jesse with higher passive provoke than Vossler. If Jesse is wearing her TMR or her STMR, it will give her more provoke than Vossler, and it's going to throw off your party. So just gear her other ways. The reason we chose Aiden is because a few reasons. The main reason is because he has triple white magic, which is very, very useful. That allows us to full life Vossler to kill him, full life him again. No, I'm sorry. If Vossler starts the turn dead and Jesse starts the turn zombie, which happened a few times, it allows us to full life Vossler to get him back, full life Jesse to kill her, and full life Jesse again to bring her back. So you need 3 casts to do that. You want to be really careful with AoE revive on Aiden because it auto-casts a revive next turn, and depending on the turn, that could get you killed. So try to stay away from that. Just use his regular his triple cast full life white magic. Jessie was chosen because she has a Imperil and Break on demand. She also refills MP on demand. Very, very convenient. She also has high evasion. She has natural passive provoke. She's a really budget option here and a really good option. Just don't ever use her LB. Even though it's a very good LB, we don't want to use it. Ling was chosen, super obvious reason. She is great for this fight if you're doing a budget run. She's also a free unit with the drops. You want to use her to fill morale gauge. Morale is important. You got to push that morale really far, otherwise Louise will not do good damage. Morale gauge. She also has a good fire imbue, fire imperil. She also has a good undead killer buff, and she has things like status immunity buff, which helps build morale earlier in the fight. We're using purifying dance because it gives a lot of morale per cast. Elena, completely replaceable. She's just on an Esper for the Farega spell, and Irony's Ring to quad cast with Louise. If you're bringing like Yigni, for example, then use like the Anima Esper with Dartga. If you're using something like Sky, or if you're using Sky, then bring a Tag Chainer to cap Sky's LB. If you're using Laura Croft, then have Elena triple cast Bolting Strike the chain with Laura Croft. So those are like the big 4 morale units. If you're using Sephiroth. Sephiroth not the greatest idea because he's using his LB, and you don't want to use LBs for a budget run, which actually means you don't want to use Sky either. Yeah, don't use Sky. No, don't use Sky. Unless you have no choice, then you don't have no choice. But you want to stick to non-LB units if you can. And Louise is our damage dealer. Okay, so I'll go ahead and show you the gear. So for Vossler, he's a little tricky to gear. I'm not using... The only STMR I'm using is the free STMR, Nyx's Dagger. We were given that for free during the Noctis event. Now this is a little probably controversial. This is a limited item. It gives them immunity to stop and status ailments. It is replaceable by STMRs. For example, Sephiroth's STMR or Xenohort's limited time STMR. It was free, but it's a limited item. You want him to be stop immune and status immune, so give him that however you can from some kind of source. Also, he needs to be full evasion. He needs to be passive provoke. He's got a weird... He's got 40% passive provoke naturally. So Mogul Charm brings him to 90, and then Danger gets the Blood Punch and brings him to 110% passive provoke. So here's the build we're doing. We want 100% to fire, earth, and dark resist as well. That way he's immune to some of the attacks earlier in the turn, and it helps out. So Nyx's Dagger is 20 to all. Knights of Pluto Shield is an event item. It gives evasion. Thieves Fest, evasion. Oh yeah, and give him a source of guts if you can. We gave him the Midsummer Boater. This gives him an extra charge of guts. That allows him to have 4 lives instead of only 3 lives before he dies. That's not required. You could run this strategy with Vossler only having 3 lives. It just means Jesse would die a few times instead, which is really not the worst idea. The only problem with that is if Jesse starts the turn dead, she can't do the breaks, which means when the boss dispels himself, you can't re-break easily with Jesse. It just slows the clear down. So if you don't have a source of guts for Vossler, the strategy does still work. It'll just be a slower clear because then Jesse's gonna be dying a whole lot. Resistance, Melody of Life, Kindness. These are cheap at cheap 4-star TMRs. And then event item, trial reward. And there's his build. Aiden, just full evasion. That's all that really matters. Full evasion, and then yeah, full evasion. Oh, and I gave him. He's also stop immune as well. He's getting 50% stop immunity from Garland's TMR, and he's getting 50% stop immunity from Shiva. This is an Esper skill on Shiva. It's passive stop resist 50%. Combined, it's stop immunity. Most of the time, we buff stop immunity. The only reason I geared for that is on the off chance something's going wrong, the clear is falling apart, and you forget to buff immunity. If that happens, this will give you like a get out of jail free card. It's again not required. It just makes the clear smoother. So there's his build. There you go. Jessie again. She has no passive provoke gear. She has 100% naturally. And we gave her a source of guts, again, just for emergencies. She has her own natural guts. This just gives more sources. I don't think she ever even took fatal damage that entire clear. So, not important. Again, just, emergency type stuff. Anyway, here is her clear. And here is another source of stop immunity. This was technically free. It was a free STMR from the Kingdom Hearts event. It is limited time. But again, these do have replacements from STMRs, like Edel's STMR or Sephiroth's STMR. These all give stop immunity as well. This is like just the budget option because it was free, even though it's an old event. Yeah, full evasion. Ling, just evasion. I gave her some LB fill, Call of the Wild, etc. She gears for evasion extremely easily. That's it. Just LB fill and evasion. Boom. Elena, Irony's Ring, status immunity, evasion. Pretty much it. Yep, that's it. Shift form exactly the same. And she chained Irony's Ring, and she's on an Esper with the Farega spell. And then Louise, base form. Now Louise, I am using some STMRs. That was to speed the clear up a little bit. Spell Daggers gives her a permanent fire amplify just in case Ling is busy to amplify her. Vermilion Flag gives her permanent break immunity just in case she gets broken somehow. Auto Faith for the buffing, full evasion. Shift form, like I said, I am using some STMRs on Louise. Double TMR, status immunity, full evasion, and some killers, and there we go. It just speeds the clear up. If you don't have good gear on Louise, the clear would just be slower. So there's the budget run. Hope it's been helpful. I will see you guys next time.